Is Headstart pay to win? A lot of people have a lot of different philosophies on is Headstart pay to win. Unfortunately, not a lot of people understand everything that goes on with Headstart. So I wanted to make sure that we spend a couple of minutes on Headstart, so then when I put this on YouTube, people can talk about it. Now, like I said, every discussion is a heads, tails discussion. And what you end up having is people know like a few facts, and they like to run with the few facts that they have, and then they don't want to listen to anything else. What is the definition of pay to win? And pay to win is quite simply, I paid real world money for an advantage. Okay? So I paid real world money for an advantage. And so with that definition, is Headstart pay to win? Yes, because you got Headstart with your Kickstarter package. Now the question becomes, how much of an advantage? And I know that becomes a gradient scale, because some people are going to say it doesn't matter how much of an advantage, it's an advantage. And that is absolutely true. You cannot dismiss those people. See, the problem becomes you start arguing away. You start arguing on the last word. You start arguing on the win. You got to look at the whole phrase. It's pay to win. So when you start saying, oh, well, it's not that big of an advantage, well, you've already conceded the point. Yes, it's pay to win, but now you're marginalizing the pay to win. Let's talk pay to win. Yes, it is absolutely pay to win. Now, I know some people are going to say, but Steven has said it's not pay to win, so it's not pay to win. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Okay, in this case, it doesn't matter. The developer doesn't get to sell something and then turn right around and say, I sold this, but it's not pay to win. You can't call it pay to win. No, I can call it anything I want, but we got to do more than 5 seconds of work. So did I pay for it? Okay. Yes, I did. I got my Headstart because I paid for it. Is it still available? Is it still available for purchase? No. So it is an advantage that cannot be equalized. Can I equalize it out? No. At the end of the day, it's did you pay for it? Yes. Can you equalize it? No. What is winning in Ashes of Creation? If you guys follow my website, you know that I talk about the node system ties into everything. If one system is the overarching system in Ashes of Creation, it's the node system. You can't unlock dungeons without leveling up the local nodes. You can't get access to housing without the nodes. There's no storage points without the nodes. You might have some minor storage in those starting areas. There may not be, so even if you can gather, right? Even if you can gather on the Headstart days, number one, all of that experience you're earning is wasted because it's not feeding a node because the nodes are disabled. You can gather yourself up a backpack full of resources. Absolutely. And I know some people have said, well, they could just not sell the gathering tools until live launch. And that is also true. They could just choose not to have the vendors sell you your initial gathering tools. That's very, very true statement. So really, at the end of the day, what are you winning? You can't develop the nodes, even if you move across the map to a spot. And that's really what guilds say is the biggest one. The movement across the map. And you guys remember if we go over to the map here, we'll use this one because it's got the starting gates. You have the ability to move to some pretty isolated regions during your head start time. And that is definitely a factor you have to take into account. So there's some parts of this map that you could get like all the way down to the edge of the map. With all that said, it's pay to win, okay? I'm not gonna sit here. You guys tune in my show because I don't drink the Kool-Aid. I don't like if Steven could come in here right now and say, well, you're saying it's pay to win and it's not pay to win, and I'll say, look, I just spelled out all the reasons why I call it pay to win. I disagree with you on this point. Where they have changed the pay to win thing, and I've seen some of you say it, is you can choose not to play on a Headstart server. This is not ArcAge's launch where they're putting up 6 servers on launch day and you have Headstart people on all 6 servers and you can't go anywhere else. So there's number one. Number one is you can avoid it altogether. Number two, you're going to know that you can avoid it during pre-registration, during beta, because they want to pre-register the guilds. So you're going to be able to completely avoid all of the shenanigans you don't want to see. If your guild wants to avoid some of the big powerhouse guilds, I know a lot of people are going to give you trash for it because you're not going to server 1. Who cares? You know, server 1, as great as the PvP is on server 1, Server 1 tends to be a toxic cesspool, okay? It just tends to be a toxic cesspool. Everybody on Server 1 is usually a superhero, like the Toxic Avenger. So you can avoid all of it. Number 3, Server 1, if you are one of those people that wants to be on Server 1, Server 1 is not going to be a Headstart server. And I know that they're early on in the community, early on in the Discord, the majority of people on the official Discord were all OGs that had their Kickstarter, because, you know, it was basically the Kickstarter people came over to this guild or this Discord, and then the owner of the Discord gave it to Intrepid Studios. So at one point, the 10,000 active members, I would say 8,500 of them or more had Kickstarter. But now there's 40,000 plus people on that Discord. There's only 20,000 Kickstarter backers, and of the Kickstarter backers, 10,000 of them have Headstart. So Steven's already said it's going to be 1 to 2 servers per region. Do you think the guilds that have never heard of this game before, all of the guilds that have been fighting each other for 3 or 4 games past, who enjoy fighting each other, if they come over to Ashes of Creation, do you think they're going to allow that the community is going to permit Server 1 to be a Headstart server? They're simply going to say this. This is simply how it's going to work. All right, all of these guilds that weren't here for Kickstarter, we're declaring the Red Sandal server as Server 1. And all these other guilds that have Headstart, they're going to be like, but no, Bacon server is the Headstart server, and that's Server 1. It's going to be like, great, you 3,500 people in the region that have Headstart, it's great you have that opinion. The rest of us over here, we're doing this as Server 1. You play anywhere you want. And so with all that together, when you put all that into the mix, I don't think Headstart is pay to win. I think that Intrepid has done a good job. Now, I did say on the Discord, I think it was last weekend, I said Headstart was a mistake, and it wasn't a mistake. I think what I was trying to say was the fact that they're doing Headstart hasn't really been summed up and presented to the community very well. Now, I am gonna say, right, there is a little bit of skepticism on my part when you say you need the Headstart server, and I get that. I understand. I've been a part of several game launches that went way sideways. I would hope that the final beta 2 test that you run isn't so radically different than the Headstart. You're doing like emergency, like panic mode maintenance. So with that said, I'm going to jump in and grab some comments on Headstart. And so we get can't develop nodes and they're all in dedicated servers. It's not going to affect me. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people feel that way. It's not going to affect you at all. I don't care. Me personally, as a guild leader, I'm not going to a Headstart server because none of my guild has Headstart. And I'm going to just be like, I'm not going to ask you to start on a server 2 days late. As long as Ashes labels the Headstart server so that I can decide to start in an untouched world, if that is the case, it would not be pay to win. I agree. I think it would still be pay to win, but it wouldn't be a forced environment. So yes, I agree. Still agree here, but this was also more of a first in to win. Didn't they close the early access packs a long time ago? Yes. They were closed in Kickstarter. I will say my personal opinion, I think Intrepid did their Kickstarter way too early. I'm betting they're kicking themselves now for not having waited a couple of years. From the consumer side, why would someone want to start an MMO before everyone else? One of the best parts of launch is seeing the multitude of players joining with you. Rhodium, that is for some people. For some other people, they want to quote unquote win. Some people are only in it to win it. As long as people are allowed to choose whether or not to play on Headstart, there should be no issue. Everyone's happy. Yes, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I used to argue with Steven about the Headstart thing, and then when he said that they're going to designate some servers as the Headstart and the rest won't be, I was like, okay, now you fixed the problem before it's a problem. A month after launch, new players will no longer care whether or not a server was Headstart. I think a month after launch, players are going to care whether or not the server was Headstart or not, depending on the health of their server. I actually have a genuine fear that the Headstart servers are going to be underpopulated because nobody's going to want to go to a server at launch that was the Headstart server. It's going to be like the leper colony. You're going to have the 3,500 people, and remember, I say 3,500 people. It's less than 10,000 people have Headstart, but that's across 3 regions. The Australian community has a huge, not just Australian, I apologize, Oceanic community. The Oceanic community has a huge number of people with Headstart. They're going to get a Headstart server. So yeah, you're going to have about 3,000 to 4,000 people max per region. They're going to get 1 or 2 servers. Their guilds are going to join them, and then I have a fear that those servers might be the light ones. They might be the ones at the beginning. They're like, oh man, we don't have a queue. People are going to be like, yeah, it's great. We don't have a queue and it's launch week. As much as queues suck, guys, you want to have a queue on you don't want to be stuck in the queue, but you want your server to have a queue on launch week. That means a lot of people came there. Designating the Headstart servers kind of makes Headstart a negative thing for the people getting the Headstart. No hardcore players will want to roll there, and it'll be mostly casuals. Yep. Are there any concerns of a huge amount of people shying away from Headstart servers, or do you think the populations will sort themselves out with time? Like you just said, no one serious is going to want to start on a server 2 days late. And I know people are like, but it's only 2 days and the nodes aren't active. That's a double-edged sword. I'm not starting on a server where I'm 2 days late, where my guild is 2 days late. We're just not doing that. Somebody looking for secrets and spots are more likely to find stuff than a streamer messing around playing the game. That is true. That is true, but remember, there are right now 10,000 people with Alpha 1 or more. There's 40,000 people as of October 2018 that had Alpha 1 to Beta 2 access. Keep 40,000 people 2 years ago had those accesses. I don't know what the number is now. I think the only Headstart benefit would be the early knowledge and telling their friends, hey, iron is found in this node at this spot, and they will just spend less time running around nodes to find iron, but that will change as the nodes develop, so their knowledge will only go for so long. That is true. That is true, but I'm gonna counter that with that knowledge is pretty much useless anyway, because like you guys have seen, the Ashes 101, you're gonna be on, even if you don't have your own early access, you're gonna be pretty well educated on what's going on. Like, I'm not gonna know every single layout of every single node in advance. I think the equalization of knowledge is gonna come from people watching Ashes 101, people reading the wiki. There's other good content creators out there that are gonna cover things. I think the days of Alpha 1 or Alpha 2 access giving you like this deep-seated knowledge are kind of over. I really kind of do. People will have chopped up the entire game into small digestible bites long before we ever get into the actual launch. It seems pretty middle. Seems pretty middle of the road. The same sort of stuff I've heard over and over. So I think the most important advantage to be gained from Headstart is the node type layout of the areas not open in beta 2. True. That is true. The problem is that you're not going to know the node type layout in Headstart because nodes can't develop in Headstart, and you can't walk up to a node and be like, what kind of node are you going to be? You only know what kind of node it's going to be if you level it. The Headstart can allow a guild to make plans to take the castle sieges. No, not at all. You're not going to get to level 50 during Headstart. Not at all. You can't reserve property during Headstart because there's no level 3 node. There's no stage 3 node. The housing thing is taken care of. I mean, no node development. Sure, you can walk. You can walk yourself. I think the only big advantage is you see those circled areas. Those are where the 4 divine gates are. There's a couple of areas that might give you an advantage. Like you go south by southwest, you go south by southeast, you go north. Maybe you swim out to one of those islands. You know, maybe you spend the 4 hours it takes to swim out to an island without a boat. That might be an advantage. A guild can get on Headstart, level up as much as possible, then camp every single lobby in the server once new people come in, further solidifying their lead. No, they can't, because they would be getting a ton of corruption, and they would be losing 300 to 400% of a death at their level versus the newbie loot. Like, so a newbie takes a death at level 1, and they take 100% death XP. And they just soak you with corruption. So no, I don't see camping the spawns gonna be a bonus. Remember, corruption is not your friend. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end the segment there. So I'm gonna take... What are you still doing here? Nobody ever stays this long. This is the end screen. Well, since you're here, there's a couple other videos I think you should check out. And all those names, those are my patrons over at Patreon. I couldn't do this without them. So, big thanks to them for all their support.